On the inside of the studio. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the debut launch show of a brand new show called The Roundtable. Coming to you live from the Go Live Vegas studios in the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I'm Aaron Phillips. I'm taking a back seat on this show because the gentleman joining me for this show, folks, this is a show that's going to be about everything and anything. That's why it's called The Roundtable. It's almost like a grab bag of topics. Sitting directly across from me is a gentleman I've known for probably well over 15 years. We sold timeshare together and survived that stress.
Yes, we did.
Mr. George Miklos, how are you, buddy?
Good. Very happy to be
So nice to see you back behind a microphone again.
It's been a long time and it feels good.
Now, you know I have to give top billing to the guy in the middle, right?
Yes.
Hall of Famer.
I'm aware of that.
A full NFL Hall of Famer in our minds, beloved by Denver Bronco fans all over the world. None other than wide receiver catching a lot of passes from John Elway, Mr. Rick Upchurch. How are you, my friend?
Glad to be here. I'm fine. Absolutely well.
You look great. Everybody looks at whenever you get inducted, I'm ready to write and deliver your speech for you. So.
Yes, sir. All right. I'll accept that.
There you go. 702-329-6947. If you're outside the United States, we'll talk to anybody. 1-855-502-4321. In either case, press the number 1 to come into the studio. We have a brand new hashtag. For all of you watching on Twitter, send us your thoughts, comments, hellos, how are yous, whatever you want. Use the hashtag TheRoundtableLV. Your comments and questions will appear on the screen. We'll say hello. We'll address them. We'll deny them. We'll do whatever we feel like doing because it's our show. Anyway, did you guys have a good July 4th? I know it's a little late, but you just came back from a trip. Talk about what happened to you up in Ohio.
Oh, went back home. And first of all, to visit my mother. She's not well, but got there, she started smiling and that whole deal, so built her back up and had a chance to see my brothers and sisters, but was inducted into the Toledo African American Legacy Hall of Fame back there and that whole deal.
Well deserved.
And so
well deserved.
I'm just very thankful that they thought of me, and so that's what I went back there for. And then I just got a lot of relaxation in, let me tell you. Did some fishing and
good.
Drinking some
beer. Did you catch anything?
No, I can. Literally, I caught a can. So
you caught a can?
I did.
Well, turn it in for...
He said I can.
Right, exactly. I wasn't sure what the can meant in there, so I need a clarification.
Precious metals.
Yeah. Mr. Miklos, what's going on in your world?
I hung out on July 4th, just at the home. I had the actual day off.
Pull that mic closer to you,
I
sir.
worked more.
No, don't lean. Pull it so you don't get a hunchback.
Okay.
There you go. Adjust it. You remember how to do this, don't you?
I know, it's been a while.
George used to be on the show.
It's 9 years.
It's like riding a bike, dude. Just move the arm, adjust it so you're not sitting like, Notre Dame with the hunchback there.
Right. How's that? Is that better?
Better.
I slouch anyway. But
not anymore. You're not. You look great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you do. You really look good, George.
40 pounds in the last 3 months.
I like it.
And that was almost like when we first met, wasn't it, Rick? When we first met?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I get a pound from you?
Oh, I've got the pictures. Sir. 285 sitting and standing next to Rick and you guys. I was like, oh, this is awful. Because I know Aaron's story, what he's been through the last few years. Right. And Rick, of course, being an NFL athlete, I had to do what I had to do.
Right.
So,
well, you look good.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll talk about how you got there.
Oh, yeah. That's
throughout the show. By the way, I want to thank our great sponsor today, Planet Harvest Health. They're sponsoring today's show. We'll have a commercial to run. We have some of their products here right in front. We have food seasonings. They have CBD salves and creams and ointments. Check them out on Planet Health. Planet Health is their Planet Harvest Health. Is their product line. They're online. They're on Facebook. James, Billy, down in Texas, want to thank you for hopping on and sponsoring our show today. Okay, so let's kind of talk about how we came about wanting to do this, okay? Rick, I've known you long enough, and if it wasn't for the golf tournament back about almost a year now,
Right.
we rekindled our connection.
Yes.
George, you and I have been friends off and on, and I know you've been dying to get back on the air somehow.
That's true, yes.
But Rick, I know you've had stuff going on. You first of all, you're involved in a lot of stuff, and we talked about that on a previous Aaron's Hour show, all that you're doing in Las Vegas as an entrepreneur to support our community. But you felt that it was time to deliver, we'll just say, bigger messages to communities about different topics. Am I right?
Absolutely right. Because there's so much going on in our society right now. When you talk about just coming out of COVID, all of the things that went along with it, you got so much. You got mental health, you got jobs, you got people being put out of their homes. And so a lot of these things need to be brought to the forefront where we can talk about them in that whole deal and make people aware of what's going on and possibly where they can go to get some help and those type of things.
George, you also, I mean, I know we make light of the fact that, you wanted to get back behind the microphone. And I know when I said, hey, let's get together with Rick Upchurch, I know in your mind you're thinking sports. But that I threw you a curveball. Because of all of our, listen, we're all involved in wanting to live healthy, stress and all of that. But when we started talking, because of you going down the path of getting healthy, the topic idea of joining together kind of hit home for you too.
How was I going to do a health and wellness show when I weighed 285 pounds, ate pizza, cheeseburgers, and everything I could the last couple of years during COVID? There was no way I could be involved in it, even though I was an athlete in past life. So now I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to start this pathway. And I took a lot of what you've gone through in the last few years of your life as inspiration.
Well,
I did.
thank you.
I've known you forever, and I saw what you did, and there was part of the things that you did that I didn't want to have to go through. So I figured I better start losing the weight now, exercising, and doing the right thing. And so far, so good.
Now, I'm not going to lie to our audience and say at some point throughout our shows, and this is the debut premiere show. Once we get the show settled and come up with a regular schedule, we will have our own Facebook pages, etc. But I'd be lying to the audience if I said that we would never talk about sports. When you got a guy like Rick Upchurch sitting here, football conversation may come up just a little bit, especially when and if the Broncos and Raiders, I know that not if, but twice a year they play. I'm sure that'll become a hot topic.
Of course it's going to be.
I'm a Giants fan, so I can't talk about that. So I got my own issues with the Giants.
When have they won anything? Oh, wait a minute. About 20 years ago, I think it was. No. They won something.
When it was
that long?
Michael Strahan
17-1. Was it 20 years already? The second one when they beat the Patriots?
At least 20 years.
Is it really? Shit.
So we
better change that soon.
You better hurry up and catch up.
Yeah, 2007 or something.
Wow, was it really that? Yeah, it was. Well, 2007. This is
still
15
years.
Well,
yeah.
And it's amazing. They're in a big market. They're one of the biggest markets. Like L.A. and that whole deal, Chicago.
Right.
But meanwhile, they can't put together a team. Their basketball team, the Knicks, they can't win as well. What's wrong with New York?
It's like bad parenting. They have bad general managers. At least the Giants are a little ahead of the Jets, but they're running neck and neck.
And they're not as bad as the Browns.
No, jeez, I feel bad for Sam Darnold. But anyway, see how sports sneaks into the conversation. I want to shout out to everybody who's listening right now on the Go Live Vegas mobile app. Let's send a shout out to your buddy Marty, who was here before the show went on the air. Why don't you give him a shout out? He's driving and listening.
Marty, what's up, man? Be careful on the highway, man. We love you. Take care of yourself, big dog.
You're listening on the app at 702-329-6947. Call us with your thoughts, comments, and everything, 855-502-4321. All right, let's set the stage. We have a guest in studio, which we'll bring up officially to the table after break. His name is Brian Lincoln. He currently, right now, I underline the thing, private sector. He's a therapeutic foster care, works in the private sector, and now provides individual and family therapy through Resource. I get to meet Brian last couple of months ago, whatever it was, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago for lunch. And we asked him to join us because of all that's been going on. We had the Uvalde shooting, which is really kind of what turned the heat up on this show getting off the ground.
Yes.
Right.
And then, of course, the incident in Illinois over the weekend, the shooting by that 18-year-old. And we talked a little bit about it on my show about mental health today in society, especially for men.
Yes.
We're not known to say, hey, I need help over here.
That's right.
We're the last ones. I got a sore throat and I got 105 degrees. Nah, I'm good. I don't need to go to the doctor. Okay, well, guess what, folks? I am proud to say that some 22 years ago after my mom died, I needed help. And I saw a psychiatrist. I saw a psychologist. And I'm still working with those people. dealing with the passing of my mother, high anxiety disorder, depression. Those are things I was diagnosed with. And I'll tell you, it was a story about Terry Bradshaw that I read, a little small blurb in the USA News when that was still being printed years ago, about how when the red light was on, he was great. This was James Brown talking about him. As soon as that red light went off and he stepped off the stage, went back to his dressing room, he just crawled into that ball because of all his wedding failures, his marriages, all that stuff, until he asked for help. And I was sitting at the airport in Sacramento, ready to come home from this event I was at, and I read that, and I'm like, you know what? I tried for a year without any medication. I didn't want to use medication to get better. After a year, when I realized it wasn't helping to be without, that's when I went back, because he said he went and got help medically. Right. And that was my inspiration, and it's okay. And that's kind of what spurred the conversation, especially with all that's been going on.
Absolutely. And for me, being a sports athlete, my career ended real early. I got 9 years in, but I was still wanting to play. My body was still wanting to play. And then all of a sudden, I get a bad neck injury, and my body feels good. But they say with your neck, you can't play anymore because you have the possibility of being paralyzed, quadriplegic. And let me tell you something, guys. When that rug gets pulled out from under you and you think you're in control, and all of a sudden that rug comes out and now your body says, get ready for the season, but there's no season for you, you go to a dark, deep place, man, of depression. Believe me. And I went there for about 2 years into a dark place as far as that was concerned. I went to my pastor. I talked with my wife. I talked with anybody that I could possibly talk with to try and pull me out of that depression. And let me tell you, depression is real for anybody and everybody.
I agree in a lot of cases about mental health in today's world, but I keep hearing so much about it nowadays, but you never heard about it 30, 40 years ago. So sometimes I'm wondering where the actual diagnosis comes with mental illness. Is it because of not having the proper childhood, the proper guidance, or the situations that come from life, a family death, or a disappointment in work? I've had my share of disappointments and being down, and I don't know if depression, there's different levels, I guess, of it. I'm not an expert, but I've been down and sad before about certain things in my life, but I always seem to manage to get over it. And I'm grateful that I'm one of those guys that doesn't use prescription drugs for anything. I just try to work through it on my own, and I know there's people that aren't able to do that. So part of me has to have that sympathy there, which I'm still learning about. Mm-hmm. It'll come as I learn more about situations like we had this past weekend.
By the way, I want to share, someone right now has been kind enough to, Chief, you're in the chat room. Good to see you. Thank you for joining in. When we brought, about 2-3 weeks ago, when all the stuff came out about Vince McMahon and the wrestling and the investigation, we started talking about that on my wrestling show, Thoughts Count Anywhere. We talked about mental health for about an hour. And I jumped the shark, and in that hour, I talked about the show that we're doing right now. And one of our big fans, Top Rope Collectibles, is a Facebook page that sells that promotes selling wrestling memorabilia, all certified stuff, no hanky-panky. My guys, we support them. We go on, we buy our stuff. They come on, support us. The point I'm saying this is because during that hour, William Hudson, who is one half of the tag team, they call themselves, of Top Rope Collectibles. And right now he's pinned this show to the top of his page on Facebook. He called in, shared his thoughts about mental health, illness, and whatnot. He has pledged $250 to this show to be donated to whatever mental health organization program we choose to support as the show goes on. He's encouraged his other supporters and fans to join in. So we have support for this to help other organizations, at least locally, regarding this illness. I don't want to say issue. It's not an issue. I think the issue is not enough people come out asking for help.
Right.
It's an illness. We know that. I'm
right.
being treated for it. You're handling it on your own. You had to be treated for it mentally or on your own before you, like you said, 2 years to climb out of that hole. Our guest after the break, Brian, I'm sure he'll talk to us about ways people can handle that sort of stuff. But I want to give a huge shout out to the folks at Top Rope Collectibles. We thank you for supporting us. We appreciate that. And as we garner, because by the end of the year, fellas, as this show goes on, I want us to raise money.
Right.
And I want us to pick an organization. Maybe it's more than 1, 2, 3. depending upon what we get.
Right.
Let's make some donations and let's put the money where the mouth is for us.
That's right.
And let's support the causes.
That's right. I agree.
So I want to thank William Hudson. Oh, Chief Thomas Glenn, my co-host on Thoughts Kind of Anywhere and a dear friend. He's served in the military. Thank you for your service, Chief. You know we love you. He's admitted on the show many times, and he's just posted on Facebook, he has PTSD.
Yeah.
Okay? Even PTSD, I think, and Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong. Brian, I know will correct me if I'm wrong. That PTSD sort of is one of those illnesses that falls under the guise of mental health that we don't ask for help because we don't know that we have it.
That's right.
Most of the time. Am I right in saying that, you think?
That's right. I believe that. I believe that 120%. If you don't understand, man, what the symptoms are, if you don't understand what it looks like, you've never seen it before, no one's ever talked to you about it, how can you comment on anything?
Please use the hashtag #TheRoundtableLV on Twitter. Send us your messages. Put your messages in the chat box. Call us, better yet. 702-329-6947. Press the number 1. Billy Ball. She's one half of our sponsor, by the way, down in Texas. She's the wife. She's the brains of the trust.
Billy. Thank you.
All right.
James is just the operational yes dear kind of thing. All right. With that, we're going to step aside for our first break, courtesy of Planet Harvest Health, which again, we have the products here on display. Please pay attention to the message. We'll be right back.
Anxiety, depression, SD, ADHD, pain, inflammation, dealing with mental or physical health issues or know someone who is? Relax, refresh, recover, revive. Natural health alternatives using hemp-derived CBD and other cannabinoids found in hemp are increasingly becoming more effective in managing various symptoms that affect your body, state of mind, and daily life. Planet Harvest Health's mission is to help those looking for natural, new, and better solutions for a healthier way of life, specializing in small batch, handcrafted alternatives, providing higher quality and a cost-effective product. Go to planetharvesthealth.com for more information and education on how we can help you.
This is the story of one man's incredible journey from 350 to 200-pound weight loss and his mission to help and inspire others. Aaron Phillips. People are praising Aaron's new book with 5-star reviews. Aaron's various humorous and wildly entertaining stories portray his rise as a sports announcer, his encounters with exotic and irregular entertainers on the Las Vegas Strip through his long-running Vegas Unwrapped radio show, and his contagious and positive style of pursuing success. Call now or visit our website or Amazon now to get your copy of Let My Voice Speak to You, stories from a Hall of Fame radio personality. Order now.
Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
Welcome back to the Roundtable. I feel like we should be on a porch somewhere with like straw out of our mouths and boots.
I love the music.
I love it. By the way, I hope those of you who are just joining us, you missed the introduction. Kudos to Aaron here at the studio for putting this show together, right?
Yeah.
I sent it to you guys to look at. You nearly fell through your phones about how great it is.
I did.
Well, thank everybody for tuning in. 702-329-6947. Once again, want to thank Planet Harvest Health for being our sponsor. We have some of their products here. But joining us here at the dais is Mr. Brian Link. He attended Saginaw Valley State University. We obtained his bachelor's in social work degree and worked at Boyersville of Michigan in residential group care for delinquent youth for about 5 years. Moved to Vegas in '92. Attended UNLV, where obtained his master's degree in social work. His first job in Las Vegas was working with the homeless in Clark County, then became the director of the first private therapeutic foster care agency here in Vegas. Since then, he has worked as a public agency child protective service investigator and foster care worker. Then, as I mentioned before, he returned to the private sector to provide services. The therapeutic foster care provides individual and family therapy. His quote, his belief, there is no challenge I've walked away from. As a social worker, I have learned and continue to learn from those who have survived very challenging life circumstances, and I have them to thank for the skills I have. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Get right in there on that mic. Let them all hear you there.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. Listen, thank you for joining us on our flagship launch premiere debut show. And hope I read that right. Read it just the way he wrote it. Anyway, wrote it better than I read it. So you heard the opening of the show. And when we met for lunch so many weeks back, we even talked generally about the topic, you, me, and Rick. My question to you is this. What's going to happen to this society if we as individuals don't start recognizing that we as individuals might have illnesses such that, like we were talking about, mental illness, PTSD, and all of that? What do you think what's going to happen to our society if we don't step up and say, hey, I have a problem, I need help?
I don't know.
No prognostication on that? Do you have any statistics right now as to where society is with illnesses like this that are being treated, or in your office, or for what you do?
Yeah, I want to say just, going through all the training and reading the stuff I've read and just practicing, which is talking to people over and over and over and over again. I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I try to keep things simple because I think it's easier to, comprehend things that way. As far as communication, I think pandemic and a combination of, other more larger contextual things that have taken place in, this country and around the world, I see it as isolation.
Okay.
I see it as people becoming more isolated, and people are not supposed to be isolated from each other. That has consequences, and technology is contributing a little bit to that. Mm-hmm. So I think the more we talk about it that way, because I just look at the neuroscience, which really progressed with the technology as far as our interpersonal biology and the effects of the environment on human beings and their interpersonal biology, which tends to have, the way I look at it, has just caused more isolation. And it's a big umbrella, but I feel like all of us are affected that way and need to resist that,
that temptation
to isolate.
Okay.
Because of the danger, because of the things, these extremes that we get exposed to in society. And so as far as the data, I still go back to what I learned. 53% of the population, continues to have this unconditional acceptance of humanity. Mm-hmm. It is what it is, and we're all just trying to fit in out there. And we need to increase that number. Right. And I do feel like that number is increasing and will increase because we do go to these extremes. And then I think humanity responds to that. We start talking about this because, again, keeping it simple, sharing was always what was going to progress things and has progressed things for humanity.
And we learned to share as kids.
Yes.
Right? Share the ball. Share this. Share that. Rick, you want to follow up?
Right. I was just going to say, Brian, I've worked for you and with you in that whole deal with Agape Children's Services and that whole deal, and had the opportunity to see how all that works and working with the kids. And the thing about it, a lot of these kids had a series of things that you had to go through. Not just one, not just two, not just three. They had a series of things. You had to kind of get things completed at one thing. Let's say it was neglect or anxiety or whatever. You had to work through that in order to get them to the next level in that whole deal. So what I'm asking you is this: the younger you are, And if you can recognize and spend the time and recognize those things in your children, don't you think as you grow older, you'll be able to cope and deal with these type of things a whole lot better? Do you understand what I'm saying? What about if you catch it younger in a child and you recognize that they're having issues?
Well, that's the other thing that the research and technology's effect on being able to understand what's going on in the human mind. And one of those things is attachment. Attachment with your primary caregiver. The second you start breathing, limbic systems, which I just call the feeling brain, because if I'm talking to a 6-year-old, they will understand this. I can even show them a picture of a brain and say, one brain feels, one brain thinks. How do they work together? And it's choice. What I'm practicing, what becomes pattern, is how our brain adapts based on what's happening in the environment. So if I'm loved because I'm human, because I'm a child and I'm loved because I'm human, and choice and consequence ends up being about, freedom and safety.
Right.
So it's very easy to practice, those things with a child. And when that child is exposed to that kind of attachment, they're gonna progress very rapidly.
Sure.
and be very responsible and be very, caring, nurturing, kind, but they're also going to be able to avoid a lot of negative influence as well.
And I think that's something that we were all talking about before we went on the air, is about how much influence comes from home. Being in an elementary school where I see students that struggle for a lot of different reasons. My wife, who specialized in special ed for 35, 40 years, Ritalin always seems to be the answer for some of these kids that they're not sure they have a problem with. George, thoughts, comments, questions?
I agree with what Rick and Brian both said about starting young. Parents have to do a better job in today's world. Now, I will mention, and Brian mentioned isolation. It was even before COVID. The cell phone, the video games, we've become isolated in our own little world. And I see kids today, they don't even talk to each other. They're standing next to each other, but they're texting each other. There's no more communication. And I believe that it starts with childhood, like you said. You have to get with these children early. Keep an eye on them. Talk to them. What's bothering you? What makes you feel happy? Then there might be some embarrassing conversations with mom and dad, but that's just the way it is.
Did we all have those?
Of course.
Absolutely.
And I'm disappointed today in the, we all, even I'm on my cell phone all the time.
Comment from Billy in our chat room, just to follow up, and then I don't mean to cut you off. I like recognizing people when they jump in. Childhood junk really stays with you, and it's hard to put all that you were told and taught behind you at times to grow. Go ahead.
Well, I'm addicted to my cell phone, I guess, if you want to call it an addiction. I don't want to.
It's an umbilical cord.
Yeah, we're all on it. We all communicate. It's funny how it is. Technology helps us communicate differently than it would be one-on-one or with family. So we have to learn to balance that out. That's my thing.
Absolutely.
I remember, for me, my grandmother and grandfather raised me, and the number one thing that they did with us every day, when we sat at the table, we ate dinner together. I can maybe count on one hand of how many families I talked to where they actually sit down and eat dinner together. I remember we would just spill our guts to our grandparents about what happened at school, where the kids was bullying me, or I hurt my finger or my toe, or I wasn't feeling right in that hotel. And so then they were able to understand that I was having some issues and address those issues.
How was school today, dear? Fine.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
When my kids were home, when they were in school, we would sit down and have dinner, and we told them no cell phones at the table. Now, with my kids now grown up and doing their own damage in the world successfully, my wife and I, it's just the two of us, and I got to be honest, we make our dinner. We bring little party tables, and we're in the living room still watching some TV, talking, phones, and everything, because the world around us, like you were just talking about, Brian, has become so technical that these have become umbilical cords, appendages, that if you don't have it with you, near you, oh my God, what did I miss on Facebook? Oh my God, did I miss a call from this person or an email? I got to stay on top of everything. And I think as much as we need these now, they are as much a detriment to what we are as people. Like you were talking about, this helps. This is part of the technology isolation, right?
Yes. So, again, what is consciousness for? Why do human beings have consciousness? And after, asking that question over a long period of time, it's a simple question, actually, and I think the answer is also simple, to detect pattern. So you have to build that toolbox. This is what therapy, I think, and insight really is very effective at. It is, you have to be able to reorganize perception and reorganize that conscious toolbox to have certain things ready to respond. And one of them is, what is pattern? Okay, one time, okay, but you're bringing that phone to the table every night, or you're on it when somebody's talking to you, this isn't going to work. It's just not, it's isolating, and that's how I refer to it. So you really have to just be able to look at what is pattern, and you can do this in a lot of larger contexts as well. So that's a very important tool to have in monitoring behavior.
I want to share a couple of comments. First on the screen is from the president at MTHR_Dearest, and I'm presuming MTHR is short for Mother Dearest. This is from our Twitter page. My kids have been wearing me out these past few days. It ain't never been this bad. I'm just saying it's growing pains. The president, I'd love to know how old your kids are, just for the sake of conversation. In our chat room, Billy says, Billy acknowledges Rick, what a beautiful upbringing you had, sitting with your grandparents around the dinner table. She acknowledges that. Our good friend Chief says, what I've learned in his case with PTSD, communication is the key, for him at least. He learned loud noise is a bomb for me, so the 4th of July, I wear double earplugs. We learn as we go along, but talking and communicating is the key. And Billy down in Texas says, quote unquote, how many likes did I get? It is quite sad what people think is important in life.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Hey, Brian, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that trust is a big issue when you're talking about these type of things as far as mental health?
To me, trust is a part of the whole issue of safety. That's another tool you got to have. What is safe? When I talk to parents, and it's like letting your child know that a lot of times they are getting the signal that something is unsafe, but if there are boundary problems in that environment, they're not going to be able to validate that. So that's what I mean about keeping things very stable and consistent when it comes to, children. So, because it's this simple to me, don't touch that, it's hot. Why do they then touch it? Right. And my answer to that is because they don't trust what that parent is telling them.
Right.
And that can be as early as 2-3 years old.
Right.
Because there's too much other inconsistency going on in the environment. So it just, to me, it comes back to, emotional systems are really about what is safe. It's a very important part of the human mind. And so learning how to trust that, because there's consistency in the environment, is what is most important for kids and families.
I'm glad you brought up the safety thing, because I worked at 3 weeks of summer school, and they offered a yoga class like a special this year. And so I went and attended it, and the instructor started doing affirmations. And so I carried that into the classroom with the kids. Every day we're going to do an affirmation. I am what? And I can't tell you, out of 12 children that I had in my class, you know how many of them said safe? At least half of them.
Wow.
Use the word I am safe as an affirmation. I am loved. When you mentioned that, it kicked in my head. By the way, thank you to Crystal Wine on Twitter. She just jumped in a few minutes ago saying hello to everybody. Please use the hashtag, the Roundtable LV, to send us your comment or message. Today's special show, our launch show, the Roundtable, brought to you by Planet Harvest Health. George, question, thought?
One quick thought is that parenting. I was lucky. I had great parents. My mother was a Holocaust survivor, and my dad was a general in the Army. Most kids don't get parents like that. today's world, I mean, and again, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Thank you, Ox.
Kids are having kids today.
Yeah.
And the kids are having kids, the parents they haven't lived enough to gain that wisdom or gone through hardships to help figure things out. And when you're 18, 19-year-old and you have a kid, you're still out there wanting to do what 18 and 19-year-olds do. Parenting is sacrifice. It's tough work, it's a tough gig, but it can be very rewarding for both the parent and the child if it's done correctly. And I don't know if there's a guideline for that either. It's just circumstance.
There's no handbook.
And then, Brian, there's also some ways to detect it as well with technical type of things, right? EKGs, these type of things. You can, hook people up, put it on the brain, and you can see where they're deficient as far as their thought patterns and that whole is concerned. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure. I mean, I asked the question, is calm an emotion? And a lot of times you get some very, deer in the headlight kind of reactions to that. There just isn't any such thing to, a percentage of people as just calm, So one of the things that you got to be able to develop, and it really isn't something that develops because the brain doesn't change until you're 16. I mean, I'm a firm believer in you're not supposed to have to make sense of anything until that time, developmentally.
Right.
And then it really only comes online that you start making sense of things on your own, and then you don't fully have that capability until 25.
Right.
So when you're put in a situation, divorce, parental mental health, or substance abuse, or those kinds of things, when you're put in that position very young, that starts to be very, I want to say, isolating in the human mind. Because I say isolation, but what I really mean at the core of that is being isolated from parts of yourself you're not supposed to be isolated from, And so it's really at that point that therapy really becomes, I have to develop some of these parts that I didn't get to develop growing up, and that's why you're adapting to those environments up until that point, and then at some time, this is how I need to make sense of things now. This is how I need to make sense of myself and what happened to me, because I am the things that happened to me, but I'm also the things that didn't happen to me as well.
So, before we go to our second break, so that's a little cue for our producer to get ready for commercial. Now, we're talking about you do your work through Resource, correct?
Resource Family Services, yeah.
How do people reach you? How does that, if somebody needs help, do they reach you? How do they find you?
Yeah, they can go to the website. They can call, 702-331-5608. And
the website again?
resourcefamilyservices.com.
Okay.
There's also a Google Business. I can be text on that website. You can go to Google Business.
And worst case scenario, you can always message us through the show, through the comments, or me directly on my page, and certainly we'll get you in contact or have Brian get in contact with you. I do want to read what's on the screen, and then we're going to go to break. William Hudson says, and I would be interested in getting your thoughts on this, because then after break, I want to turn the table of conversation to what we're talking about, but how it's affecting the things that we're reading about in the news, the shooting in Texas, what happened over the weekend and such. William Hudson says, PTSD comes in so many forms, he believes that most people overlook the development of it, and it's not looked at nearly as seriously as it should be. The main thing he believes about depression and anxiety is most people everywhere look past it because it's not a visible illness, and it is slandered and slammed by so many and is thought of as a form of laziness in many situations. All right. We're going to step aside for our second break of the hour, purposely a little bit early, because I have a funny feeling the rest of the conversation, when we hone it into what's been going on in society. And then I want to share some breaking news with you when we come back about a great actor who we lost literally moments ago that just popped up on our screen. You're watching The Roundtable with George, with Rick, special guest Brian, and I'm what's-his-name. We'll be right back.
Anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, pain, inflammation, dealing with mental or physical health issues or know someone who is? Relax, refresh, recover, revive. Natural health alternatives using hemp-derived CBD and other cannabinoids found in hemp are increasingly becoming more effective in managing various symptoms that affect your body, state of mind, and daily life. Planet Harvest Health's mission is to help those looking for natural, new, and better solutions for a healthier way of life, specializing in small batch, handcrafted alternatives, providing higher quality and a cost-effective product. Go to planetharvesthealth.com for more information and education on how we can help you.
Las Vegas, get ready. Ultimate Women of Wrestling UWW number 2 returns to Sahara, Las Vegas, Saturday, July 9th at 8 p.m. 6 exciting matches featuring Big Swole, Diamante, Lady Tapa, Viva Van, Zeta Zhang, Alex Gracia, the Renegade Twins, and many others. There will be a meet and greet for all ticket holders prior to the show. Also appearing will be Jen Santana, Shaw Guerrero, and special guest Charlie Haas. Learn more and get tickets at uwwevents.com.
Live Vegas Studios, a unique multi-camera social media virtual content creators paradise. We offer high-end services using live streaming and film production for your personal or corporate, commercial or event and campaign needs. Pre-record or live stream to your audience on multiple social media platforms simultaneously. Fun and interactive with social media comments, phone lines, live remotes, audio Foley sounds, and Snapchat filters. Be creative, get recognized, and make money. We help you by providing an all in-house production team. Visit our website at golive.vegas.
George Miklos, Rick Upchurch, Brian Link, I'm Aaron Phillips. By the way, let's thank our sponsor for today's show, Planet Harvest Health, our good friends Billy and James down in Texas. You see some of the products here. Now, there are a couple of products that I did not bring with me. I have these. I can give you a testimonial for these. The salves. I got a shoulder that I'm recovering from surgery 3 years ago. Okay? Seasonings. I've been using them. My wife just doesn't know it. You can get coffees and everything, but I tell you, folks, this stuff works. Check them out online, Planet Harvest Health. You can check them out on Facebook as well. Please support them because they felt it was important to support us with our show and the importance of this topic. You guys mentioned what you were referencing Brandon Marshall during the break, and I don't want to repeat the whole thing. It's not my place to. But somewhere along the line, something happened, like you said, where he kind of made a right turn, and everything that we saw visibly on TV, something happened, and he was blaming everybody else, so to speak. Well, I said you can't get better unless you admit you have a problem, right? That's the first step, right?
That's right.
All right, well, Zaina, thank you very much from Twitter. She needs to buy some good CBD lotion. Check out Planet Harvest Health online. All right, thank you. My situation, my mom had died November, would be 22 years, and very close to my mom. And when she passed, my world crumbled. I know part of it was I didn't allow myself the time to grieve properly.
Right.
And so I carried all of that with me. A friend of the family once told me when we came back from the funeral services from Jersey back to Vegas, we had some friends come over, and he looked at me and he said, you know what? He says, I would not want to be within 100 miles of you the day you truly feel like you need to explode. Okay? My wife at one point, about a year after my mom died, when I first went for help, she looked at me and said, you know, you're not you. And little did I know that she was talking to a coworker of hers at school, another teacher at another school. She was strongly urging my wife through the back entrance to get me help, to go talk to somebody, trying to convince me to go. Okay, I didn't see it. I thought it was just me. You know, I was getting pissed off at the world, the slightest thing. It's our chairs, Billy. We need WD-40 in the studio on the chairs. Chief, maybe you can send a case of that WD-40 for your Lonely Fans page.
Or some Crisco.
Right.
But that's what, hey, will your CBD cream work on it? Maybe we can put that on the joint. But anyway, that's what did it for me. I needed somebody else to show me the mirror that I wasn't me. I was an ornery pain in the backside. And finally I said, all right, babe, because she was on me. Not that she was threatening divorce if I don't get help, but she was threatening me to make our marriage really painful if I didn't seek help because I didn't see it, how it was hurting her and my children.
But the thing about it is what we do, because we're macho, I'm an athlete, you know, you're a man, we're we're macho, and we said, I don't need any help. But the thing that we do is what? We medicate, either alcohol, drugs, or whatever, to cover it up.
Right.
But the key thing is this, is that it's still there when you come down off of all that type of stuff. And we just fool ourselves that we're getting well.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to we have about 15 minutes, 16 minutes. Want to remind everybody, send us your comments if you're listening to us on Twitter. Thank you so much. Please use hashtag the Roundtable LV.
I got to write all this stuff down.
Well, listen, I've been here for 3 years. I know the hashtags and phone numbers. Anyway, hashtag the Roundtable LV. Keep sending those comments in. We appreciate it. Fun stuff going on in the chat room. You guys can monitor that. All right. So I want to focus on what's been going on in society and this whole issue of mental illness. And the Uvalde shooting in Texas, terrible. Whether it was the police department's fault or whatever, the bottom line is lives were lost. That's the bottom line. Okay? The gunman who went in, issues. This past weekend in Illinois at that parade, right? 18-year-old shot up, admittedly told police, yes, I did it. Now, I did not read anything, I may have missed it, that said why he did it. But, Rick, you shared something interesting that you read was something with the numbers of 4 and 7, 7, 4, whatever it was.
Right.
And I think stuff like that, people are finding stuff online where it's demonic. I think it was the word that you used.
Yes.
So how can we, I hate to say the word prevent, but George, give me some thoughts on society today and what needs to be done to reduce what's going on when people blame what they do because of mental illness.
I'm not a parent. I never had any children. My sister has a daughter, my niece. I don't have to be a parent to know that parenting is huge. It's a key issue. Like Brian mentioned earlier, as a kid, as early as 2 and 3 years old, they listen to us. They see things. We may not know that they're actually watching or learning from us, but they are. And you have to keep an eye on these kids as they get older, especially in today's world. I didn't have video games or the internet to do the stuff that I was doing. My parents were constantly monitoring. There was no shutting my bedroom door. They wanted to know if I was doing my homework. They wanted to know who was going to come over and visit. Again, you knew where your friends were when you were riding your bike down the street and saw 5 or 6 bikes in front of Tommy's house. Mm-hmm. We knew where they were at. And parenting, even though they gave us the freedom to go out and do things back then, they still kept an eye on us. They had Tommy's mom and dad's phone number in case they needed to get a hold of us. Even today's world with cell phones, it doesn't mean the parents and the child are connected even with that, even though they can get a hold of them instantly. There's got to be more hands-on. Again, this is coming from a guy that's not a parent, just from what I've seen in the world with friends and family over the years.
I can agree with that. I think your point on. I think Brian can speak more to it. But I honestly see that as well. I mean, once again, like I said, working with Brian and working with these young kids and that whole deal, and most of it was about the parents dropping them off and saying, we don't even want you anymore. We don't need you in our life anymore because you're a drag on us. And then they get treated that way. And what do you think a child's going to do when they get treated like they're trash and they're just throwaway? Yeah. We're in a throwaway society, in my opinion, guys.
With everything.
That's just me.
You're right.
I want to say, is there a pattern emerging about what precipitates these events? And I think that is going to get more and more attention from law enforcement. It's going to get more and more attention from the people who are paying attention to this, including our profession. So it's a combination of things that I believe can happen to reduce the possibility of events like this. I think it's going to take a pretty significant amount of collaboration and sharing with families, schools, media, to really start seeing that there are some consistencies in these events that will help us focus in on where the vulnerabilities are and to then target attention, to those areas. But I definitely am looking at, the profiles of some of these things. and seeing consistencies in how these take place.
I want to share a great tweet that just came in from Noel Bott at ampersand at soup. TW, I can't see if that's a T or an S. She says, it sucks that due to social pressures, practically everyone has kids, whether they're well suited for parenting or not. It took me a long time to accept that my mom and dad are decent people who just happen to make horrible parents.
Yeah.
You don't need perfect parents, and you don't need to be a perfect kid. And mistakes can be made. I think back to engaging in the reality that there's so much pressure to have an appearance of things. And we got to get past, this emphasis on appearance. I think social media does contribute to some of that influence. There's a lot of things that are contributing to that vulnerability in a human being. For a human being at that age to become that isolated to, that kind of homicidal behavior, there are multiple influences along the way, I think, that are happening currently.
I think a lack of discipline is one of them. The word discipline seems to be a bad word in today's society.
And I also think denial. And I'm not talking about the river in Egypt. I'm talking about, people walking around says there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of it because, once again, we've been taught to be macho. Nothing hurts me. Mm-hmm. I don't have to feel pain and that type of stuff. I think it's good to feel pain because that's your protection.
Right. That's the endorphins in the brain saying, whoa.
Yes.
Chief puts in the chat room, he says, a hug goes a long way, and we have forgotten how to do that in our society today. Trumbull Williams on Twitter says, I can now imperially say having kids is amazing. I love it. I love the work. I love the process. What sucks is anxiety parenting without anxiety is the best. Thanks. Hashtag medicine, hashtag mindfulness, hashtag counseling. That's a great, you know what? That's a great line.
I have a question for all four of us. What makes parenting different from 50, 60 years ago when we were kids compared to today? I have, I think, a couple of answers for that. But
what do you guys? Well, throw yours out first and we'll react to them.
Well, I think not all parents back then, 50, 60 years ago, in my parents' case, they wanted to be educated, they wanted to be good parents, and they didn't get involved in the social aspects of that time period, drinking. There was no smoking pot or doing drugs back in those days, at least that wasn't out and about. Back then, we didn't have all those distractions. So our parents, they were always school tough. My parents wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor. And I think most parents, those were the only two things they ever wanted our children to be. Yeah. There was no, it was all very simple compared to today. We've made life and society too complicated in today's world. But
Rick?
I think it's about keeping up with the Joneses. Families or moms and dads are working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and, for whatever reason, economically wise, socially wise, when they see a big old house or a big old boat or, a big old yacht sitting out there, that's something that they want. So they'll put their kids or their family to the side in order to achieve those goals. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of it as well. And parents, they look at our children and says, well, the person down the street, Johnny's mom and dad, they'll step in, they'll do the job with my kids and that. I trust them. Instead of them stepping up to the plate and saying, it's my responsibility, it's my job to make sure that my child, when he walks out of here, he's a productive human being.
Correct.
I think media paints, and mass media specifically, paints this picture of a very small percentage of people in the world who are disruptive, damaged to the point to where, they will cause serious harm, right? I still believe that most people out there are following the rules. I do see a lot of that kind of damage in my practice, but I also see a lot of, kids that are getting it. They're not shying away from what they need to be responsible for, and they're trying to do that. So I just think, that's what I want to really help people to focus in on. It's some entitlement kind of stuff and a lot of this happening in the culture, but I do think that there's still a lot of influence about being grateful for things, learning to cooperate in the well-being of everyone, because, I use that.
Sure.
I say to kids sometimes, why do I stop at a stop sign, four-way stop sign when nobody's there?
Because it's the
practicing
thing we're taught to do,
being
right?
safe.
That's right.
Right?
Comment came in on Twitter from at Jesse X Cals, it looks like. And looking at a profile picture, she looks like I could be her father. And I say that because her comment is, come on, old parenting sucks. So my question to her would be, define old parenting and what was sucky about it in her opinion. But maybe that's a microcosm of exactly what we're talking about.
Sure.
Someone, as she says, old parenting. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Society changes. When I was growing up, like you guys were talking, we didn't have these devices. We didn't have, there was like, who's on the phone? We had one phone in the house that had a 900-foot,
Right.
wrapped coiled cord on it that you tried to walk around the house. Better be home before the street light goes on, otherwise I'm kicking your ass. My dad.
That's it.
Size 12. Hard sole moccasins. Yeah. One time I got him across my butt. It's all I needed to know. I didn't want that a second time. You can't do that today. And you talk about discipline, Rick. A lot of parents send their kids to school and think teachers are going to teach them the discipline in life. It doesn't work that way. We're not babysitters.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Teachers back when I was in grade school, I went to a Catholic school. Mm-hmm. So you got slapped on your hand with a ruler, right?
The nuns.
It's not a joke. It's real.
Right.
It happened. If you did something wrong, they had permission to slap your hand. Now, I went to a military school in Kansas. There were certain things that you didn't do, and if you broke those rules, you got swatted with a wooden paddle with holes in it. There was reasons for that.
William brings this up absolutely perfectly, which I think summarizes everything, and I'm going to get to that in a second up there. William says, parents today, in his opinion, are attempting to be friends with their kids instead of authorities, and everybody here on the panel is agreeing with that. Jenny on Twitter says, I don't want to be an SAHM, and I have nothing against moms who are. I have something against people who call me a bad mother and I'm parenting wrong because I choose to work and provide for my kids. Come at me when you have kids and you have to provide for.
What does SHAM mean? I lost it.
I have to think about what that is. I'm not sure. I'm sure our crack research staff will let us know. But those are the things, and society is so different today. We can't expect, everything evolves, does it not? People evolve, electronics evolve, life evolves. Otherwise, we'd all be walking still like cavemen, right? With no place to live.
Right.
Okay? So we develop. Life, things change. Now, when I worked for the school district, so much disrespect towards any authority figure. As I worked for the school district during the pandemic, I was tutoring kids from my school at my house, all online, okay? And I had kids in my groups that were elementary grades, so you guys should all know what the age level is. You're talking 5 through 9, 5 through 10, things like that. I can't tell you how many times the kid I was tutoring was the older of the siblings that were still in the house. And the kid told me, no parents were in the house. They had to go to work. Okay? Right. Babies watching babies, literally and figuratively. Okay? Now, the parents had to work. I get that. But there's got to be something in an emergency somebody can do when you have no coverage to watch the little kids, because now you don't know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Society has changed. You didn't need 2 or 3 jobs 30, 40 years ago as a parent.
Right.
Today you have to, because everything's so expensive. You have to go to do this job in the morning, that job at night. Now you have your kid, latchkey kid. Here's your microwave. Here's your dinner. It's in the microwave. Put it on 3 minutes. That's not good.
I just want to let our audience know we are at the top of the hour-ish, according to our clocks here in the studio. You are watching the Roundtable. We've been given permission by Aaron here, our producer, to stretch a little longer, so we don't have to cut right off. So hang with us as our conversation continues. Love all the comments on Twitter. Love the comments sticking with us in the chat room, because this is a topic. We're not going to solve it in a 1-hour show. I mean, we have a guy who knows the industry we can't solve it.
Right.
We're just three people in the environment trying to deal with this.
That's right.
Okay. I'm blessed that my kids, both 29, my twin daughters, will be turning 29 in a couple of weeks. We taught them to be good people. Now, my wife and I got ridiculed for that because people thought we were too tough on them. We're not letting them be kids, you know. You know what? They understood the value of life and things as they were growing up. Because I was in Kiwanis for many, many, many years. They were with us on projects when we had to put food packages together and help the needy. They were one of the first to put money into our little bucket, raising money to buy food for these people. So when it comes to stable homes, I don't want to put my shoes on, my feet in anybody else's shoes, because what's going on under their roof is their roof. But I think we have to set boundaries once it goes outside the house. Am I right?
That's huge. I mean, there has to be boundaries. There is boundaries, and there needs to be boundaries. And parents are primarily responsible. Because when I say, you know, kids aren't supposed to make sense of things until they have that capability, that doesn't mean developmentally they're not taking on responsibility. They are. But parents are, you know, responsible for setting that environment that way.
You mentioned something, Aaron, about friends and family saying you're too tough on your children. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing. There's a difference between spanking your child and putting cigarettes out on their face. There's a difference between discipline. You can spank your child after you've told them 10 times to take their hand out of the cookie jar.
Right.
How many times kids are going to test their parents, and sometimes the parent has to win, and by doing that is a little bit of pat on the butt.
I remember when growing up, The Cosby Show was the show. Bill Cosby was the father figure I think everybody wanted to be. Yeah. Didn't use discipline, didn't spank, didn't do any of that stuff. Maybe grounded, okay? And watching that show, I always said, that's the kind of father I want to be. My dad spanked me, like I said, one time I was done. I didn't want that shoe again across my butt.
Right.
Okay? I wanted to be the kind of father that we can talk through problems and have that line of communication that I think we're all alluding to. There was one time, my girls, getting ready for school, they kind of got into it. A little something, yelling, screaming, getting dreaded. And I went upstairs and I pointed, and I'm not going to say who was the guilty party, Alyssa, but so anyway, so my wife was there. So one time she was aggressive. She just clocked my other daughter in the shoulder. Now she's big like me, so it hurt her. And I turned around one time and I just gave her a backhand on the butt. I went through the rest of that day sick to my stomach, because I swore that I would never be a physical disciplinarian. Right. I tell you, God is my witness, and on my mother's soul, may she rest in peace, that was the only time that I did that. I yelled a lot, I screamed a lot, but physical discipline, man, that one time, I wanted to be like that Cosby figure where I would talk to my kids and reduce the stress and not have them figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And get them all anxious.
Quick 1-minute story here. I was 15 years old, went to visit my father in Florida. His wife at the time, her nephews who were 19, I was about 15. They invited me to go see The Who in concert.
Who?
The Who, yeah.
Who? Right.
So they invited me to go. It was a great time, all that stuff. They offered to buy me a Who t-shirt back then. I don't know, $3, $4 back then. I politely declined, no thank you. We get home. I took one of the guys' t-shirts. Offered to buy me one, but I decided to take it instead.
Okay.
I hid it underneath my father's bed, my parents' bed. They left town. A couple days later, my wife, or my mother, or stepmother, was making the bed, and she found the shirt. Oh, boy. I was 15. My dad had never slapped me, hit me, done anything. He came to me that day, lectured me, stood me right eye to eye, and then he slapped me. Oh, it hurt, but it wasn't the physical pain. It was the fact that he had to do what he had to do. I felt horrible that I made him go to that extent to do what he did.
Yeah.
He never spanked me again, never hit me again. I learned my lesson. It took me one time.
Right.
And I never did anything like that again. I felt horrible because I made him do that.
Right.
Yeah, with the young lady.
Yes.
I think it's about her freedoms.
Okay.
Because I think that, once again, the parents are old school. They're old school and they set boundaries.
Right.
I learned that with Brian. Brian said, hey, with the kids, we have to set boundaries and things that they can do, or how we hug them, or how we address them in that whole deal. And I think today with kids in that whole deal, with the discipline aspect of it in that whole deal, and the boundaries that we put on them in that whole deal, I think these kids want their freedoms, and I think that's what she might be talking about.
I'm sorry. I'm reading the comment that's up on Twitter, and I just got to her last line. Bad Art Anna on Twitter at @thatgirl_Anna. She says, I'm very glad my mother instilled in me that I shouldn't just take authority figures as a given. Aaron, I'll slow down reading this for you. I don't care if you're president of Beyonce's toe. I will not be scared of you and make myself smaller. Because as they say, quote, we all have to take a shit. They're not special, end quote. What makes... See, our delay button has a delay button.
Very delayed.
I mean, what makes us special than anybody else? Nothing. We all have blood. It's all red. We all are men, women, we're whatever we are. Right. But whatever I think the reasoning for all of this stuff is different under everybody's household.
Right.
We all grew up under a different family structure, where we had the dinners, where we were disciplined physically, not just yelled at.
Right.
We weren't threatened by a child saying, if you touch me, I'm going to call CPS on you, or DIFAS.
Right.
Okay? Parents send their kids to school expecting the teacher to be babysitter and to teach them the discipline that they can't give at home because maybe they're not around, okay, because they're working, 27 hours a day. I get all of that. But there has to be a way to reduce the mental stability increase the mental stability, reduce the stress from whatever the first sign that somebody is able to recognize. And I don't want anybody, like my wife being in special ed since I've known her, everything always went back, and you could probably relate to this. Oh, they're not 100%. We got to get an IEP, which is called an individual educational plan. And usually when they can't figure out what's going on, send them to the doctor. Doctor gives them Ritalin to solve it. And it doesn't work. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the kind of stuff that I think we have to get away from, the rut and standard way of handling things, because just like we say in every situation, I may strike gold the next time I walk out on the street, and you could stand right next to me and dig up the street and find nothing. Results will vary.
Well, how come love and understanding isn't what motivates my growth? Why is somehow suffering? Where does the influence come from that I have to suffer to change? So, where is it coming from that, or how do we make love and understanding the way people progress versus I have to suffer I have to have a consequence. So I just asked that question. Where do those influences come from? Absolutely.
It's a great comment. And I think part of it, Chief put in here, I think a problem is we do not look at each other in the face and be honest with each other. Yeah. There was a quote that came up. Do you still have that one? I'll, if you have it, put that back up there.
Yeah. Can you believe that?
Okay, so here's one that may question everything we're talking about on the other side. This comes from @Pettyboy, B-O-I, Raj. This person says, you mastered parenting when you take a nap and don't give what the kids do while you're napping. That ain't mastering a problem. That's not mastering anything.
No.
That's hopefulness. That when you wake up from that nap, your house is still standing and your kids are still there and all in one piece. Because I've read stories in that situation where kids go out back doors. Kids drown in pools because a parent was not watching them.
Right.
So I don't agree with that, but I respected that person's thoughts and opinions on it.
But again, just like the kid that just did the shooting in Chicago, he was on the dark web. He was into it real deep. He was pulling all that stuff, all those triggers. We don't know what triggers people. And it was one thing that triggered that kid when he went into the internet that set him off. That's what he said.
Right.
That's what he did.
18
years old.
I even asked my wife, what is the dark web? How do you even get on it?
Right.
Well, I mean, where do you go to do that?
You got to find a hacker.
And what is there?
Right.
I mean, what is there?
The stuff we don't want to know about.
But to get to that point, you have to be practicing something.
Yeah, for a long time.
You don't decide in a split second, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, they said he had drawings of violent stuff and had been doing things.
Did it say anywhere in the story how long he
Videos.
might have been planning to do this? Did it say anything about how
I know
long
he was planning a second one in Wisconsin.
For years?
For years.
Oh, he was planning a second one in Wisconsin?
He drove there, but then changed his mind.
Remember, he wanted to kill his whole family.
Right.
That's where it all started.
Okay.
But then his dad goes and buys the gun. He consents for him to get the gun.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
A legally purchased firearm.
So the question is, though, did the father have any clue what the son was studying, and what was the reason that the son said, Dad, can you buy me a gun? But now the gun, if he's 18, he was not of age. The gun had to have been in the father's name.
Exactly.
I did see an article about it in a former coach from years ago saying that the parents were the problem. This was years ago when they would always pick up the kids last from practice, and they would never get there in time. So the coach had to sit there and wait until they showed up. And he said the parents were the problem. This is 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
This is no question an issue of attachment between the parent and child.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof.
Or you can't be friends with your child. I can't stand it when I hear that. Oh, I'm friends with my daughter.
Well, I was going to say, I love my kids. They know we're their parents. And I know with them approaching 29, I can't tell them what to do.
It's different now.
Right. No, absolutely. I give them my opinion. What they do with it at that point is certainly up to them. But we're also friends with them. I love my kids as my daughters, but we're also friends. My daughters are so different because they're fraternal twins, but they're my buddies in so many different areas, as well as my daughters that I love to death.
But you raise them to be able to make decisions correctly, and hopefully they did the right thing in life. And now you're friends because they're older and they're adults.
I have a question for you, Brian, that came in from the chat from Chief. He asks, bottom line, what sent that fellow into that thinking, in your opinion? Something had to throw the switch at that point, right? Or from the beginning of his research.
It's a combination of things, but it is grandiosity. It's delusional thinking. It's a lot of influence that contributes to that. It's sensationalizing things. It's a lot of influences that creates that vulnerability in somebody's mind. But once they're practicing being in that delusional state, is what I call it, and almost narcissistic, and there's just a combination of mental vulnerability going on there that they can get from the dark web. They can get a philosophy. They can get a direction and a cause, and this kind of stuff from those places. There are those influences out there, and I think those need to be targeted as well in creating some of that. But it is delusional behavior. You've gone off.
Well, that's where I come in with parenting. Get your kids involved in something positive, whether it's sports or music or cooking, something that gives them
an outlet
or a focus, instead of worrying about what's on the video games or the violence and stuff. Give them something positive to do. Unfortunately,
a lot of schools nowadays, a lot of those extracurricular activities that you're referring to don't exist anymore.
It's crazy.
Because of budgets. Listen, I do CrossFit 3 times a week, but I mix it in with the day of boxing, and I love kickboxing. Not only is it a great cardio, but you know what? It's a great stress reliever.
Sure.
Okay? That's what I tend to... Now, does it help all the time? No. But it helps me get grounded. By the way, I just want to let you know there's a certain Don in the chat room currently watching the show.
Oh my goodness. That woman.
that Donna.
Hey, well, she's going to tell you a lot of stuff about me. No, I'm just joking.
Next show, our special guest, William shares in our chat room, buying a gun at 18 makes me wonder if the man grew up around guns or not, because it definitely doesn't sound like he did. He thinks people raised around guns, especially from a young age, you don't hear from them usually turning into becoming a mass shooter.
I agree with that totally. I agree. I was in the military. I played with shotguns as younger and was taught the respect of the firearm and what it was supposed to be for and that kind of thing. Yes, these guys that you see on TV, the gangbangers and all this other, the shootings, I don't think they've ever had. They've just watched TV and learned how to do with it from there.
Well, for me, I just didn't see the gore. I never saw the gore, the shooting of things and, the gore and all that type of stuff. But when I went out with my grandfather for the first time and shot a rabbit, and then he says, you've got to clean it, now I got hands-on. I had to put my hands in that gore and the guts and that, or the cleaning fish, putting my hands in that blood and gore and stuff. I got desensitized.
Sure.
I mean, after a while, I'm like, shoot, this is no problem anymore. But when I first did it, it was the nastiest, worst thing. I didn't want anything to do with it. And I think a lot of times with kids, when they get on the games and they see all the gore and killing and that ordeal, they get desensitized.
I'm so glad you mentioned the games again. By the way, Brian, Chief says, thank you. Just can't believe that wasn't seen by someone prior to the tragedy happening. Billy says, if the kids aren't getting positive focus and direction, they get attention where they can, and there are predators and a-holes who will give them an outlet. There's always somebody out there preying on them. Now, you mentioned the games, right?
Yes.
We can Fortnite and all these killing. And listen, I'm going to make one sound, and I bet you guys will know what video game I'm talking about. You ready? Boop. Boop.
The tennis, the one with the
Pong by Atari, right?
That's what
that ball would take 30 minutes to go from one side. You can order pizza and get it delivered in 30 minutes, right?
I love that.
That was our game. Right. That was our video game, right? It drew us nuts. It drew us nuts because it took long. But that was our level of games, right?
That was it.
Right.
And then it developed to what it is today. So where did all those games in the minds? Where TV, movies, social media.
Now you got Miami Vice video game where you can shoot and kill everybody.
But like Brian said, the sensationalism of these actions making the news. Now, we have to admit, when was the last time you saw a newscast on all good news?
Not lately.
Right?
Not lately.
And when does the good news appear on a news?
The very end.
The very end, the last 2. Right. The cat saved, right? The cat saved from this, or this policeman did this.
The cute little boy on the surfboard.
Right. Because unfortunately, good news doesn't sell.
It doesn't. Right.
So now we're back to the television, the ratings, and everything else. What will people tune into? Thank you, Chief. You got it, Pong. What will it turn into? And that's because we only hear about the bad crap that's out there.
Controversy sells.
Right, controversy sells.
Right. I agree.
And you have that, the sensationalism, and everything going on. It's a whole different. So that young gal who said, old style parenting sucks. Listen, if I were 25 or when I got married to her, when I was 29, when I had my kids, if I was 29 again today, man, I'd be thinking twice if I want to bring kids up in today's society. And I said that back then. Because, do I really want to have kids in today's society? Well, we did because we took care of our house.
But the law says you cannot put your hand on your children. The kids say, I will call the police on you. Now you got protective services coming to your house asking you questions and that ordeal. My grandmother and grandfather said, man, I got the right man to beat your behind, man, within an inch of your life.
Right.
If I can get the right things out of you and get you to do the right things, then that's what I'm going to use.
Absolutely.
It worked for me. Well, I don't know, but totally worked.
We're still working on things.
I don't know, Joe. I'm a question. I know.
We're still working on things. I know a guy that can help you if you need it.
Right here at the table.
All right, Brian, I want to switch gears here in a few minutes because, again, I want to thank everybody for hanging with us. I want to thank Go Live Vegas for letting us go over our time a lot because this is a very important time. We could probably do an 8-hour show and still not even make a dent in anything. Give us just, in your final thoughts, give us a recap about mental health illness today. What an individual can do, maybe some of the signs that other people should look at. Give us about a minute or two on those kind of things before I switch gears to cover some other things.
Well, first and foremost is realizing how isolated somebody is. No friends or very superficial contact with the outside world, that. But I want to say there's professional help. It's short staffed in a lot of areas. Telehealth has remedied some of that. But access has always been a really big deal, and we need to improve, access. But I think there's pattern emerging about, what can contribute to someone, getting in that mindset of doing that kind of damage. And I think all of us everywhere need to be progressing and educating ourselves about that, especially anyone working with kids, anyone working with, families, to promote more just simple engagement. I mean, I show them all these board games, stop this other stuff, the simple, consistent things. You can get so much information about your child just playing a simple game, right? A board game. So things like that. And I mimic that in therapy. And a lot of therapists, I think, are doing this. When we're doing family therapy, we're really showing them this is how you engage and attach to your child, that they trust you and they're safe listening to you. But I do agree, there's been really a deterioration of being able to have social contacts with these kids and get them in sports and get them in activities and get them in things that gets that feedback. This is acceptable, this is not. I look at growing up in my hometown, Midland, Michigan. It's a very unique town. I'm very thankful of growing up there. It's the national headquarters of Dow Chemical, which increased the PhD per capita significantly. And I wasn't one of those families, but my friends were of those families. And so when I look back on what really ended up influencing me to, get my act together and do what I need to do, it was those friends that, I can go back to that town and I can see 3 middle school kids walking down Main Street, 2 of them looking over the other's shoulder, and they're looking at something. And I asked that question, what are they looking at? And people, well, it's his phone. No, he was carrying a book.
Right.
So this was 3-4 years ago, right, that I'm back in that hometown. They're 3 walking down the street. What are they looking at? It's not a phone. It's reading a book.
Right.
So it's this simple kind of, and I think we're really exposed ourselves to a lot of extremes out there with technology and all this other stuff, and we just need to, help families understand. It's engaging and connecting and attaching to your child that what the choices are, and I still think that even in the roughest parts, because I look at the contrast of, because that was a certain part of Chicago, but not far away, you have the same thing going on all the time. So the paradox of this is very interesting too. But essentially, I would say, it's being detached, it's being isolated. It creates the vulnerability to then progress into a very dark place.
If you have any other questions or comments, you want to talk to Brian about what's going on, you need some support, reach out to him at resourcefamilyservices.com. All the contact information is there. Get that one off of there. Sorry, someone says therapy's not working, he needs some drugs. But anyway, well, listen though, I'm going to be honest with you. I am a psychiatrist.
Sometimes
is the one that prescribes the meds to help. Psychologist is the one you sit down and talk and kind of figure out a path.
Right.
I have a psychiatrist. I have properly medicated gentleman who gives me what I need to support so that my depression and anxiety doesn't go off the charts. Yeah. All right, a couple of comments I want to make, and then we're going to switch gears very quickly. Chief says, barber strap on my backside one time for my dad. Society, including myself, has allowed the laws to change, both good and bad, to place us where we are today. William Hudson, I'd like to make one point more. No, all right. He wants to make another point. Sorry if it's controversial, he says. Can we also look into society the need for police to make entry and at least draw as a distraction to an active shooter instead of staging and waiting 20, 30, or even 60 minutes or more, such as in the case in Uvalde, waiting to receive an order to make entry there? I don't disagree with that. I mean, if law enforcement's there to protect us and you have an active shooter situation, which we know for that happening, we know the individual, I shouldn't say we know, but we would anticipate the individual to have some mental health issues, right? A sane person, in my opinion, would not plan to do something like that, okay? I think there should be better ways that the police can take faster action in situations.
I
because
agree.
those people in Texas, they're all being roasted down there.
Thing about it, fear causes us to do things that we normally wouldn't do.
Good point.
When those bullets get to flying, and you know, all you've done is shot at, mannequins or targets and that whole deal. But now you're
That's a
in
great
that
point.
real life situation. Boy, it's a different thing, man. Those bullets whizzing by you and knowing that you could possibly get hit. Yeah. Everything changes, gang. I'm telling you.
That's a great point. You know what? You don't know unless you're in that situation.
That's
I like his comment, and I also want to tell him never apologize for an opinion. Well, no matter how controversial you might think it is, or how somebody
One-sided
might disagree.
it might be.
Yeah,
Right.
Never apologize. For that.
Sharing is probably the most important thing, and that means communicating.
Right. That's a communication, which was, you talked about that early. We've all been talking about it. Chief mentioned it early in the chat room. You know what? Let's show respect to each other.
Right. Instead of, I don't like your opinion.
Well, that's what Facebook kills me about Facebook. More people argue about opinions than a fact.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You're right.
If 2 + 2 = 4 and you tell me it's 5, I can prove to you you're wrong and we can agree to
Move
disagree.
on. Yeah.
But when there's an opinion, you have the right to believe that the sky is purple and I think it's gray. We may argue about it, but respect each other's
Right.
opinion. Let's move on. And I have to laugh when I see that go on in discussions on Facebook. Anyway, we have about 6 minutes. We're going to end the show at the bottom of the hour. Once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in on Facebook. God bless you. Respect is something. Sharing is caring. Thank you, Chief. And I want to thank everybody for their comments on Twitter. You've been great out there. I know more comments have been coming in. They're being filtered to make sure that we address the ones specific to the show. And just know that everybody that's commented, we appreciate that. Okay, real quickly, we have some time. You, sir, I want to acknowledge, we talked about it before the show, over the last 3 months, man, you have shed, I'm not saying lost, because lost means you can find it again.
Right.
You have shed 30 pounds. 40 pounds?
40 pounds.
40 pounds. And you have a product that you use that you also represent that helps you do that. Why don't you talk about what's on the desk there in front of you?
Real quickly, our flagship product, the company's called TrueIQGlobal.com. It started, of course, January 2020, right when the pandemic, just before it started. The flagship product is CBX4. There's 4 different cannabinoids involved in this product, the only product that has 4 cannabinoids. I take a drop in the morning. It helps with anxiety and depression, which you might want to think about. It does help. It also helps with...
Check out my doctor.
Right. I'm not... and it also helps with renal and liver issues. It's helped lower numbers in people with diabetes. I use it for general wellness. I've been grateful. Never had any prescription drug issues. Never had any... Don't have a doctor. What I lost the 40 pounds on was a combination of hard work, long hours, and micro. This right here, this is incredible. You take 2 a day. I would eat breakfast, and then I would take 2. I'm done for the day.
Okay.
If I did get hungry later at night, it would be a piece of fruit or maybe a little bit of salad just to kill the hunger pangs, which I didn't get. There was no sweating, no shaking, no jittery, no nothing. You just took your appetite away, and it kind of angered me because I love to eat. But I lost the weight.
So now... I know you. I know what you do for a living. You're security. So a lot of times you're not moving a ton if you're positioned in an area. So did you increase your activity physically? Did you walk? Did you do some working out? Tell me about that.
Oh, yes. Walking is huge. I was doing 27,000 steps a day when I was mobile. 12, 13 miles a day, every day, 16 hours. Now I'm more of I'm not as mobile as I used to be when out at the
because of your work, right? You do security.
But I do have exercises that I use when you're standing in one place. And I've still managed, when you're walking to your car, to the lunchroom, or back to I've still managed to get 5,000 to 10,000 steps a day.
Right on. Where can people find the product?
You can go to 20316.trueiqglobal.com. That's 20316.trueiqglobal.com. You can order it. If you have any issues, my information's on there. You can give me a call, email me if you have any questions about the product. I am living proof, and I'm not one of those testimonial guys.
We're going to get a before and after picture the next time we get on the air.
Yes, I'm not one. I used to have my arms folded in the back listening to people's testimonials, crying, oh, I did this, I did that.
Right.
Yeah, right. This is the first time I gave a testimonial a week ago, and I felt really good afterwards, saying, "Oh my God, it did work. Right. You did it.
You did what you had to do.
It. Yeah, right. And there was no rhyme or reason. It's just I got tired of feeling bad.
Right.
And when I first met you guys, I was 15 pounds shy of 300. I said, no way. I got to go the other way, and I did.
William is asking if you could post a link to your product.
Of course, I sure will.
So if you want to drop it into the chat room there so people have it. Now, while we do that, let's see. I don't want to read the handle, but you can see it there. I'll just spell it out at FUCC_U_bus. She wrote, workout last night left me so achy I barely slept. Need to get some CBD gummies or something soon. Got Planet Harvest Health that will take care of that. So go to their website. Now you also, sir, have a great health product that you offer others to feel good.
Absolutely. Great company called Secret. Secret has been around.
What is it? Don't you can tell me the name. Don't keep it a secret. Tell me the name.
That's right.
It's okay.
And I'm a secret agent too. So I'm a secret agent.
Secret agent man.
That's right.
That's it.
No doubt about it. And I got into this program about a couple of years ago in that whole deal. First, we started out with World Ventures. World Ventures was a travel club in that whole deal that we were.
I know that.
That's right.
That's right.
And so what happened was when when the virus hit us and COVID hit us and that whole deal, travel went bad.
Right.
But then there was another company called Secret. Isaac is a great gentleman. He's from Jerusalem and that whole deal. And from Israel. And so his family developed these products. And what they did was with these products, they infused their products with Dead Sea minerals. Folks go to Israel, right, to get into the Dead Sea for all kinds of different health issues in that whole deal.
Right.
So they said instead of people having to go there, they're going to bring those products to you. So we have facial cream, we have serums, we have masks, we have everything that's infused with these salts.
That's why Rick never ages. You know this,
with these salts and with these minerals.
incredible.
But then with it, we have the nutritional products. They're all vegan. Dr. Howard Cohen, he's an excellent nutritionist doctor. He's won tons and tons of awards in that whole deal. And with it, we included the travel. So now what we're doing is what? Look good, feel good. We want you to travel when you feel good and look good. So I go around, I build teams, teaching young people how to build their life dream using Secret.
So you hear, folks, we're all from different walks of life, and what we do to make ourselves feel better, look better. And that's why we've come together, because I don't think there's enough outlets where people share with others what we as a public can do to feel better about ourselves.
That's right.
Okay? Yeah, Brian here to talk to if you have some concerns around your household. We have products that'll help you lose weight, products to make you feel good. My book, just if you want to laugh, my book is all about inspiration, laughter, and education, about how I did go from 354 pounds to 215 prior to the pandemic. Thank you very little. And then the COVID-19 gave me the COVID-20, which I'm working on to get back off. But I will never get back to 354. I will never have diabetes again. None of that stuff. It is gone. My book shares that. Planet Harvest Health has helped me feel good after my CrossFit workouts, by boxing workouts, the salves, the seasonings, coffee. Check them out online. You're going to hear one more time from them as we go out. George, it's been fun. We're back on the air, man.
I can't believe it. I'm back. I feel good. It's been great.
And to be honored with the man, Mr. Upchurch.
If folks want to find out about Secret, go to secretdirect.com. You can find out everything and anything
I thought you said it when I heard you say about Secret, so please do it again.
Secretdirect.com.
There you go. Worst case scenario, comment to me and I'll get you information from Rick. Brian, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Again, website is
resourcefamilyservices.com.
I'm Aaron Phillips. Pick up my book. It's available on Amazon. You can message me. I'll send you an autographed copy so you too can feel good about life with everything we've talked about. I'm Aaron Phillips. Stay on Facebook to learn more about when the Roundtable will be back to talk about who knows what. I'm Aaron Phillips. Be kind to everybody. Why? We're all we have. Be safe. We'll see you next time here on the Roundtable.
Yes.